Hello and welcome, everybody out there in Union Arena Land. I hope you're all having a fantastic day today. Today, we are going over the Kuwabara and Genkai deck in the newish Yu Yu Hakusho IP. These are two of my favorite characters in the entire show, and I feel like they deserve a lot more respect than they've been getting recently for how good and aggressive this green deck gets to be. Now, let's go over what the deck actually does. So, on the surface, this looks like a deck that just has some pretty good keywords, but not a lot of juice in order to win the game. I'm here to tell you that that may not be the case. This is a deck that requires quite a lot of thinking, some preemptive choices of actions that you are taking, and careful consideration for what your future turns look like in order to score out some wins against your opponent. It is very aggressive, it is good at removing additional blockers, and it has a lot of good removal inside of it. So, let's look at it. Kuwabara, unrated, is a nullify impact. Just so everybody is clear, that means if you just vanilla him 4k on the front line, he's a nullify impact. If you raid him onto your Kuwabara, he's a nullify impact. Both of these are very, very good options and a very good component to what this card is. Now, when played, this character gains your opponent must block this character's attack if able until the end of the turn. That makes him a very good aggressive card. Your opponent is attempting to have a more full board state. You can put this in there and force them to chump block with either a small little push-up character that they have most of the time. But if you can time it with other cards in the deck, you are able to remove their fodder cards and then apply this to force them to chump block with one of their bigger, more important characters. It is very important to point out as well that this deck has an insane curve. 12 and 4, that's normal. 16 twos. 16 twos. Yeah. And a small part of me is debating on dropping some of my threes for additional zeros so that I can add even more pressure into the deck, but that's a different conversation for a different part of the video. This is a deck that gets to push into your opponent quite often and force them to have to push things into the front line to react to that. And you are able to capitalize on that. He also has another line of text. When sidelined, if Yukina is on the field, return up to one base card of this rated character to your hand. That's pretty darn good as well. So if you chump block with him because you need to get rid of that impact that is coming in your way, well, unfortunately you lose him, but at least you get the raid target back. Going over to the other raider in this deck, we have Genkai. This character can only be played through raid. She's a 3-drop raid, 4.5k. Huge, right? But you only get to attack with her one time, sadly. At the start of your turn, place the top card of this rated character into your sideline, then draw a card. That is the unfortunate part of Genkai. You play her, you get 1 point of damage in because she's a 4.5k. You probably get a free block in as well, and at the start of your turn, you go sideline her, draw a card. Very good, just for all of that. But it is unfortunate that you only get to attack one time. But to be fair, she's a 3-drop 4.5k, so that's probably good balancing. When played, choose one character on your field and move it to the other line. Then choose up to one character with 3,500 or less BP on your opponent's front line and switch it to resting. This is one of the cards that is able to control what your opponent can block with when you raid your Kuwabara and force them to block. If you're able to go, I raid Kuwabara, I raid Genkai, potentially push up something else on your backline like a 0 cost or something like that, you have 3 attackers, you removed one of their blockers, and they are forced to block Kuwabara the moment he swings. So you more than likely swing with him first and force something on their field to die. If you're able to do this consistently in the early game, you're able to apply enough pressure that it's going to be hard for your opponent to stabilize mid to late game and remove all of your threats and then kill you after all of that. Very, very good card. The next thing we're going to be doing is talking about the meat and potatoes of the deck. So, 0 cost get trigger. We know these. We play them. 0 cost 2k active trigger. She's also a raid target for Genkai, so we're going to be playing her. That's obvious. Kawenma, 0 cost Draw Pitch. In my opinion, your deck should always be playing this if it is an option. This card is so good at smoothing out weird draws, helping you not to breaking up your flooding of your zeros. It is so important to play this card. And it's a draw trigger, so there's nothing lost to it. One cost is a Kuwabara that, if you have a Yukina on your field, becomes a 3k during your turn. So it can be a 1-cost 3k attacker with an active trigger. That is big enough of a 1-cost to get through every 0-cost in the game currently. And that is very important to distinguish because we are in a Kenshin meta, and there are 3 decks technically, that have 2.5ks and 3k 0 costs. He's able to swing through them, which means you can steal back the tempo and attack. The next card is kind of a sleeper card as well. When I first read this, I was a little confused at how people weren't playing this in the deck. I get it, it's not a trigger. I don't care. It's just so good. So it is a 2-drop 3k that, when played, choose one character on your opponent's front line with BP less than the highest BP of any other character on your field and switch it to resting. That is insanely good. Now, it does have to be smaller, so if your biggest thing is a 3k, you can rest their 2.5k chump blocker, or smaller. If you have your Kuwabara out, you can rest their 3.5 or smallers. If you have this Genkai out, you can rest their 4ks or smaller. It has to be smaller, but even at that, you're a very aggressive 2-drop oriented deck. You're okay with just removing their little chump blockers that they're putting out, and when they start putting in the big pressure cards, that's when Kuwabara becomes so good against them. The next card is the only Yukina we're currently playing, and I am going to talk later in the video about how I want to squeeze in 2 more Yukinas into the deck, but as of now, this is the one that is mandatory. She's a 2-drop get trigger. You want to get her online as quickly as possible. She's the most important card to get into play early game in order to enact your game plan and make it impossible for your opponent to keep up with the pressure without great triggers out of life. Her activate main, switch to resting. That's why you need to get her in play as soon as possible. Choose one other character on your field. It gains 1,000 BP until end of turn. So, if you have her, you buff up, say, another 3k, this one cost who's a 3k because she's on the field, and then you play this Kuwabara, congratulations, you're now resting something that is 3.5k or smaller when he's played, clearing out a spot for you to be able to swing in and kill things with him, kill things with her. All of this is very good. Her other activate main ability is switch to resting. Sideline her, choose a Kuwabara on your field, it gains impact until end of turn. That, you do have to lose the character, which is a little sad, but at least you get to give impact to close out the game late game. She just sits on your backline and chills. That's her purpose. She sits on the backline and chills. And you want to be able to do that when you're closing out the game, or when you can cycle her turn after turn by playing out other cards that you have. And you'll see how we get to do that in the near future. The next 2-drop we have is the 2-drop Genkai. This is your color trigger, and this is one of the best decks I've ever played with green color triggers. You have so many cards that you get to play that have when played effects that the color trigger is actively good for you. Its when played is choose something 2 or less required energy on your energy line, switch it to active. That is kind of confusing, considering it has to be on your energy line, but if you stand the Koenma, which you're playing 4 of these as your only double energy producers because you have the green color trigger, you're able to get that to be a double energy producer. There are quite a few games where you'll be able to play this guy, with your second energy, play her to the front line, he restands, that's 4 energy, and then you get to play out your 4 costs Kuwabara or anything else that you're trying to do to get some extra pressure. Not to mention, a fun little thing you can do with this deck is you activate main with your Yukina, tap, buff something by 1k, play your Genkai, restand Yukina, and then you get to buff something else, meaning you could turn 2 of your 3ks into 4ks that turn. That is a lot of pressure that your opponent's going to be under. And in addition to all of that, if you have multiples of her, the color trigger gets to play her for free. Yay! That's fun. She's also a good card. She doesn't say that she has to target an other character. She can target herself. And then you can raid Genkai on, say, a 0 cost and push this up to the front line as well. So she came in active as an attacker. Very, very good synergy. Very good card. Koenma we went over. There's no reason not to play him in this deck. He's the double energy producer. You wanted at least 4 in the deck, and I thought he would be the perfect choice. We already talked about Genkai in length. She's a fantastic card. And now this is the flex slot, in my opinion. This 3/2 says draw a card, add 1 green character card that's 3 or less energy, 1 AP from your sideline to your hand. If a Genkai with 4K or more BP is on your field, 4 or less required energy instead. That's not bad on a draw trigger. That means I get to pick up this Genkai, which just had to be sidelined at the start of my turn, or I can use it to pick up the color trigger. I can use it just to get more curve fodder. It's all like pretty good, but you draw a card in addition to doing that. So it is drawing 2 cards for 2 AP, one of which you are choosing. Now, if your Genkai is 4K, one of your Genkais are 4K in play, that is where she becomes so much better because you can pick up your Kuwabara, who has that really good you must block me ability on him. It's not as good as Gwen and Gurren, right? Because they have impact when they do it, but it's still really strong to say, all right, block me. Yeah, it's just strong. I think this card is pretty good. However, I am debating on playing the 0 cost Yukina over her. Also a draw trigger, and she buffs somebody by 1k on play. That's less relevant overall than you may think. You don't really need that many cards that do that, but it's the fact that it turns the 1 cost Kuwabara and the raid Kuwabara into consistently incredible cards that makes it so powerful. I'm not sure yet. I may test it out like this for the time being. In the future, I may put her in. Now, this is all the meat of the deck, the characters of the deck. We have 4 finals, which of course we do. We're playing an aggressive style deck, but we're not that AP intensive. So yeah, we're going to keep it how it is. Then after that, we have Spirit Sword. Woo, Spirit Sword. Now, this card, one of your characters gets plus 1k BP, and when this character attacks and wins a battle, play up to 1 green character card with 2 or less required energy, 1 AP from your sideline set to resting onto your field until the end of the turn. If the chosen character is Kuwabara, it also gains Snipe. So, you raid your Kuwabara, you untap with it, assuming they didn't kill it or anything, then you give him 5k Snipe the following turn. When you snipe the character, he counts as him winning a battle. You free play something from your sideline. So you can sideline your Yukina to your Kuwabara, swing with the special snipe, get Yukina back onto the back line, so you can cycle and do that again the following turn. It is a deadly, deadly, deadly threat. And the other benefit of this deck is you can push up your 1 cost or your 2 cost Kuwabaras and turn them into 4k snipers, which is just so huge. Again, if Yukina is the best option you have for cycling through your stuff, then just cycle through it. Do that. But since you're getting a 2-drop back or less, you could also get back this 2-drop Kuwabara, which removes another potential blocker on your opponent. I think you're seeing the pattern here by now, right? It's really good, really consistent, very powerful. It has a lot of different lines, a lot of different synergies, and a few different build paths that I think makes this deck a lot better than people think. There is a small consideration for doing Kuwabara plus the 4-drop Yusuke, but personally, I don't think that deck's very good. Genkai is so much more aggressive and has better card selection. The 4-drop Yusuke requires you to play so many specific cards to him, it's hard to fit Yukina's in, and the Yusukes, and the Kuwabaras. It becomes a little too cluttered. Because so many cards are support cards specifically for him. And at the end of the day, I think the Kuwabara deck itself wants to be super aggressive, low to the ground, and punish your opponent for not being able to say, here's a bunch of 4Ks on the front line, pass the turn. But I think that's going to cover everything I wanted to talk about in this video. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one. Goodbye.